I was at the head of a glass table about to greenlight a merger that would make us richer and me lonelier when a tiny voice hit my speakerphone and blew my life open. "Sir, are you Mrs. Hart's husband? I saw her tied to a bench in your sunroom. Please don't hang up." My team stared like I'd grown a second head. My thumb hovered over end, then the girl whispered the one detail no prank could fake. She had a bracelet with a blue butterfly, the wings cracked a little like lightning. And that was it. I walked out without a word, elevator doors fighting to keep up with me. In the car, I did what men like me always do. First, I called my security company for comfort. They told me everything was green, cameras, live, doors locked, which is corporate for go back to your meeting, sir, but my gut said, look again. And when I hit the driveway on Laurel Bluff, there was the caller, a little girl in a red hoodie crouched by the hydrangeas like a field scout, dirt on her cheeks, courage in her eyes. "I'm Ivy." I didn't touch anything, I swear. I just saw her crying, and then the curtain moved. And you know what? I believed her. The sunroom keypad blinked red when I punched my code system failure. Somebody with a manual and a mean streak had been here. So I went around back, tore Ivy off the old cellar doors, and dropped into a breath of damp coins and dust, past the breaker saw, lockout glowing like a dare, climbed the stairs. Slow-stepped into my own hallway, like it belonged to someone else, nothing but the clock Nadia pretends to hate, ticking too loud, then a small sound, a trapped breath, and I rounded the corner, and there she was, Nadia, wrists tied to our wrought iron bench, gagged eyes, steady and scared, looking not at me, but past me, and before I could turn, something cracked my ear like a bat. I hit the floor, and the room slid sideways. When the world put me back upright, a man in black gloves stood over me with a flashlight in one hand and a little pistol in the other. Not angry, not rushed, just professional. "You were supposed to stay a headline, Mr. Mercer," he said, then glanced at Nadia. "We had an understanding. You bring the drive. I keep this civil, and I wanted to bargain, like I always do. I wanted to price my way out. But then a rock pinged the window behind him. Another followed, and a 6-year-old voice from the garden ripped through the room. Away from them, he flinched just enough. I lunged, twisted his wrist. The pistol popped into the ceiling beam. We fought breath and elbows and old pride until I got the gun, and the voice that came out of me didn't sound like a negotiator anymore. Don't move, and for a heartbeat, even his smile looked nervous. I cut Nadia loose. She dragged air like it owed her rent, hissed. "He's not alone. Cameras are dead." And then a car peeled out somewhere, and the back door stood open without Ivy in front of it. Just my coat, crumpled by a planter, like a dumb offering, and my heart went old and ugly real fast. I called her name until my throat hurt, found her curled in ivy by the bird bath, shaking but not broken. "He grabbed me, but I bit him," she said, God love her, and she handed me a broken key fob she'd fished from my pocket. One of the buttons cracked a number half rubbed off. Trash or breadcrumb, we'd find out soon enough. Cops flooded the yard. A sergeant with midnight in her eyes took over. Medics took Nadia, and for 1 second I let relief touch my ribs. Right up until the hospital speakers called Code Amber child abduction, and security showed us a woman in a gray cardigan gliding up to Ivy with the posture of a person trained. "Where noise gets you killed," told a nurse she was. Grandma walked my little hero through an open staff door, no cameras beyond it. Yeah, that happened, and I know the type. Not military, worse corporate extraction. The kind hired when the check clears and the paper trail must not. We caught the van at the docks because a black box idling at the edge of nowhere is a confession. I yanked the back doors, and there she was, taped at wrists and ankles, eyes huge, still brave. "It's okay, I'm here," I told her then. A voice cut the air, "Step away from the van." Mercer the Gray, Cardigan gone, same woman gun leveled, calm as weather. I didn't come for her, I came for you two, which I would have said something clever if a bullhorn and a wash of red-blue hadn't rolled across the gravel. She dropped the gun. I exhaled. And an hour later, 2 federal suits I couldn't place walked her out of the precinct under a national security order. No charges, no names. Just a door closing softly on the part where accountability was supposed to live. You know what I mean. Nadia told me the rest while the fluorescent lights hummed like bad advice. She'd been working off the record with 2 insiders to expose a contractor called Orion Metrics, the kind of company we reject one year and quietly embrace the next when it comes back with a nicer font. They'd built something under grants and shell companies called Sentinel Seed, a system that flagged children as future threats based on zip codes attendance. Whether dad worked nights, whether mom had once missed a court date she couldn't afford. No appeal, no context, just math wearing a judge's robe. And because she didn't trust the chain of custody, she hid a drive in our summer place in Mariner's Cove under the floorboard behind the piano pedals. And that was the moment I realized how long she'd been carrying this alone, and how much I hated the man I'd been while she did. We drove at dawn mist on the marsh like the world was thinking. I pried up the board, pulled a black USB wrapped in cloth and a prayer, and before we exhaled, a government suit with a seal and no phone number pulled in neat, as a comma. "I'm Rhodes," he said, "Office of Strategic Affairs," which is not a building so much as a vibe. He smiled the way a cat does at a glass door and said, "Destroy the drive, take the child, disappear." And I stepped out on the porch and closed the door because 22-year-old me might have taken that deal. But I'm not 22, and I don't sleep like a man who runs. Back home, we killed every device except a dinosaur of an air-gapped laptop I keep for paranoid mornings. Nadia spun up a satellite line through a box that looked like a retired weather station. We opened the drive, and it didn't open. It bloomed invoices to shells, emails laundering harm into policy, a grainy video of 3 men laughing about tying off loose ends, and then the models. God. Project Black Seed. Scoring kids like stock risk going up. If you missed 2 buses, if a parent worked 2 jobs, if your block had too many expired meters and not enough trees, numbers pretending to be destiny. And that was the night I stopped being a man who wins deals and started being a man who owes a city the truth. We recorded a video, no soundtrack, no drama, just straight. We helped build something and watched it grow teeth. Names, dates, dollars. Then we set a timed release across 5 mirrored servers and waited for the part where people who can't afford headlines show up in person, and sure enough, the cabin sensors tripped at dusk, 2 silhouettes moving like good training. Nadia slid in a decoy drive that would wake the mirrors the second a file opened. I grabbed Ivy, hit the root cellar tunnel, ran into trees that suddenly knew how to keep secrets. And when we reached the ridge and looked back, the cabin was coughing smoke. Not a big Hollywood fire, an ugly practical one, and I told Ivy what I told myself through the drum in my chest. She's not gone, not until the truth is. Sparrow met us at an old barn. That's what we called Nadia's insider. Thin, steady eyes like a man who's done the right thing without permission, he handed me 3 metal drives and a rule: open these on anything connected, and they'll self-immolate. So we hauled up the fire lookout tower, where his people left a solar mesh relay upload, crawled like a miracle with a limp 92, 98. Below, SUVs fanned out. I gave Ivy a flare gun and a job, only if they hit the stairs. And shots started chewing bark until a news chopper arced in, and the agents melted like smoke, 100% lit on the screen, broadcast live phones buzzing the same sentence coast to coast. I think you need to see this. By morning, we were at a hearing under lights that make truth look guilty. I told them about Sentinel Seed and Orion, and how we called it safety, while it ate children in spreadsheets, held up a file on a boy flagged at 7 for living on a block with too few trees, and my voice broke on nothing important. So I slid the mic down, and Ivy stood on her toes and said, "I'm 6. I like drawing cats. Somebody said I might be dangerous. They never met me. I'm not a number, I'm a kid." And the room did something rare in that building. It listened like it wanted to be better. The head guy at Orion went on TV to call our files early research, and we answered with deployment dates and receipts with his signature. He resigned by lunch. Assets frozen by dinner, grand juries spun up like storms we'd prayed for. And none of that brought Nadia through a door. We kept half open anyway, Sparrow swears. She slipped the tail near a creek bed and vanished. No trail, no body, just a silence that hums. And that night, we stood on the National Mall with people who made their own signs. "We are not data justice for the kids," Nadia told the truth. And I said the simplest thing I could live with: numbers don't understand dignity. Machines don't feel responsible. Only we do, then. Ivy stepped up, held her one-eyed teddy bear and said, "People didn't see me before. Now they do. Please don't look away again." And that's the image I want burned into whatever part of you keeps score long after the news moves on. So here's the part where I ask you to talk back. What does justice look like when power gets caught lying with math? Are handcuffs enough? Do we rewrite the rules? Do we rebuild the tools with the folks they used to harm sitting at the table? Tell me if you've ever been tagged by a teacher or a boss or a system, and how you fought back. Tell me if you think I'm part of the problem or part of the fix. Argue with me about safety and freedom and the price of both. Because the next chapter isn't going to be written by an algorithm. It's going to be written by people who refuse to be numbers. Hit the comments, tell your truth, keep the lights on.